go, you guys. This class is on the top indicators of a market shift. For my social media, it's been the top 10. You know, whenever you do info marketing or type of marketing, you got to pick 3, 5, 7, 10, the top this, the most deadly mistakes that are going to add up to 3 this. But for this particular class, I want to have a lot of audience participation. Now, I promised you to introduce somebody today that's very, very, very special. So I'm going to actually totally not care about this as much because I want to introduce him. So we're going to haul booty through this. But I'm going to get going with this. The podcast, the Real Estate Marketing Show, that thing is about to blow up. And it's going to be very relevant to your market. So if you don't follow that podcast right now, you need to start. We have not recorded a podcast probably in 3 or 4 months, but it's going to be jamming. And I mean jamming. I'm going to release at least one a week pretty soon. So if you guys want to stay up with technology, stay up with marketing, and stay up with the market changes, that's going to be your best bet. On that website, realestatemarketingshow.com, is where we're going to put all the videos like this that are being recorded. When I do training all over the place, it'll all be put there. So I wanted to leave that slide in there. Then, of course, the other ones, Get Shit Done. That's the top one. That's really good. Brian Buffini, Real Estate Rockstars with Pat Hyman. Pat's going to start interviewing a lot of people. I talked to him the other day about the shifting market. So Pat, I don't know if you know, but Pat drops like 3 a week. He's insane. He just drops so many podcasts. It's crazy. And then real estate marketing dude, Mike Cuevas, he's so focusing on video content right now, and media is everything in this market, you guys. So those podcasts, these are the top 5 in the country, and I think they're going to remain that way. So you might want to make sure you have that. Jumping right in. Okay, so we have little changes ahead. That's our little picture, and these are the indicators that I see. One of the neat things about our shifting market in the beginning is you're going to see people that say, yes, the market's shifting. You're going to see self-proclaimed geniuses say the market's not going to shift. And you're going to see the people that are in such denial, especially some analytical types, they will research all day long and find a few good things about the market and then say, all you guys are wrong, the market's fine. And it's only going to happen for the next 3 to 6 months, and then there's going to be a definitive answer on whether we have a shift or not. So if you've seen social media this week where everything is going to be on this one, you're probably a little confused, right? If you've been watching, like, I'll say, oh crap, and I'll post a CNBC article about the market crashing, and then the next agent will say, here's 5 reasons why the market's great, and then you'll see another agent post, I can't get anybody into my open house, and the next thing you know, 48 offers on my house today. What kind of market shift is that? So it's going to be confusing, and you guys just need to be, you know, I tell you to work an hour a day on skill set. Well, this is going to be part of your skill set to do as much market research as possible. There's a little button in your MLS called statistics. You know, maybe 1 out of 10 people know it exists. And we haven't needed to use it in a long time. But now more than ever, you're going to need to use that button and learn how to customize your searches. So when you do go into the battle zone, which is a listing appointment, you're going to need to list homes properly up front at a correct price. There's no more such thing as, hey, let's try it at this. Because trust me, I've tried in the last 30 days, and it's not fun. I've lost clients, I've lost friends, I've lost my own, mind trying to figure all this out, and it's not pretty. And one of the benefits of doing hundreds of deals a year is I get to see this stuff and feel this stuff before a lot of people do. We have 48 signs in the ground. We have 25 or something escrows going. We have a lot of insight to the market here locally in Santa Clarita, so we get to see and pick and choose a little different stuff that a lot of people don't get to see unless you're reading the media, which can screw your head up too. Somebody said it earlier, open house signs everywhere. This was my first eye-opener about, 4 weeks ago. I was looking around going, holy moly, look at all our town. Like I see why there's sign ordinances now in some cities, because it looked like a bomb went off, just threw up open house signs everywhere. And I'm like, this is crazy. So then we had a bunch of listings that took a week to sell, right? So I'm like, hey, team, let's get people on these. We have to do some open houses. Now we're struggling to find people to do our open houses, and I'm picking up the phone saying, hey, can you do an open house here or there? And they're like, oh, I'm already booked on one. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. There's not that much inventory, is there? So I start pulling up the MLS. I'm like, sure enough, there's enough inventory for like everybody to do an open house that's active in the business that wants to make money. Have you guys noticed this? I think it was you, Sam, or Mullen, you said, one of you guys said there's signs everywhere. So I hate open houses, you guys know that. I think they're the number one way to get business now and the cheapest way to get business now. So any agent that needs business, that's your best bet to get an escrow open as an open house. But when you have 20, 30, 40 listings, and you have 20, 30, 40 upset homeowners that their home isn't sold, guess what they tell you they want?
Open house.
And guess what days they want them?
Saturday.
Every effing day there is in the week, right? And you're like, oh, dude. So when I'm talking to 20, 30 clients a week, you're like, yeah, let me add you to the list. Let me add you to the list. Let me add you to the list. And it's brutal. And you're trying to say, and if you watch my open house training on the podcast, there's 2 hours of training, part 1 and 2. And we have scripts in there on the pros of open houses and the cons of open houses. And I think on both of them and our YouTube, I have ways to help sellers make a good decision that it's a good idea to have an open house or a bad idea to have an open house, depending on your bandwidth for that week or your desire to do an open house, right? So I can talk to seller in either way, yes or no, on an open house. But you guys need to learn that too, right? An hour a day of our skill set, you better start learning it, because when the open house is, and I'm not exaggerating, when the seller says, hey, I know you did an open house Saturday and Sunday last week. Don't people look at houses on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Now you're doing open houses 7 days a week. And I'm not exaggerating. They will come up with that. And the more desperate agents get, they'll start doing a lot more weekday open houses too. And then they're going to be like, well, Andy's doing 2 on my street, doing Tuesday and Wednesday. Why don't you do that? I should hire Andy. Like, hold on, I'll do it Tuesday. Before you know it, you got a tent in their yard and you're just sleeping, basically marketing an overpriced listing that nobody wants. And it's just brutal. It's an absolute brutal market. So do you guys kind of get the gist of open houses?
Yes.
We can move on to the next one? All right. How much wiggle room is in there? So over the last year, 5 years, people call me on my listings and say, hey, Mike, how many offers do you have on that property? Where do I have to write it to get it? Their clients that's still in Cleveland. They haven't even got on a plane yet, and they swear up and down they're going to write an above price, house price offer on our listings, right? So now the agents are calling me all day. It's brutal. Like, my phone's just blowing up. Like, hey, how much wiggle room is in this price? Totally different than it was just 30 days ago. Before it was how many offers. Today it's still how much wiggle room is in that price. And the offers are reflecting it. And I think you just said it. You're getting lowball offers. And that's normal. The buyers have more to choose from. They're reading things in the media. They're thinking, hey, if I'm going to buy in a down market or market's starting to shift, I'm going to get a good deal. So they have no problem writing offers. And I'll give you one example. And it really hurts because it's one of my best friends. He has a house in Castaic on Castleberry. Many of you seen it. We talked 6 months ago. Perfect, 675. We come closer to the market, I look around, I'm like, just go on the market, we'll get an offer. Him and I are legitimately camping at the beach together and get a couple cocktails and him and his wife, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting beat up by my best friend, right? So we get back, we drop it to 650. 650, we don't get anything. And I'm like, whoa, now, I know this house is worth 650. Now this week we're at 624.9. Over the weekend, and that's a whole nother thing, we got 2 offers, one at 590 and one at 599 on a 624 listing, right? So I'm having the conversation with them, all right, I want to present these offers on Monday or Tuesday, and now here we are on Wednesday. We did multiple counters, highest and best. The best, one didn't even respond, one only came back at 600. Now there's nothing wrong with this house, right? And I have tons of agents calling me, telling me the same story. So I just wanted to give a little reality to you. So now we're having the conversation right before I came here of accepting a $600,000 offer, which 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, I know I could have gotten 675. Would you call that a big decrease?
Oh yeah.
Right? So I'm asking him, do you have any showing scheduled? We don't have nothing. Mike, we need to get out of here. We don't have anything. So I'm like, wow, that's a reality. And it's not just that listing. We have listings that have been on the market 10 days without one showing. So and I feel they're priced right because we price them right up front. So that's something you're going to hear a lot. And that's something you guys can do too, right? We did the negotiation class not too long ago. And that's what you really need to do. Call the agents and fight for your buyers. When they start getting scared and they don't see you fighting for them, they're going to look for an agent that they feel is going to fight a little harder. And buyer loyalty goes scattering all over the places when we aren't like, hey, negotiating. Before it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith, one of the benefits of working with Team Bjorkman is we find off-market properties and we could at least get them at full price. We're just happy to get these for you. Now it goes back to negotiating and grinding the seller in a downward fashion very aggressively. Right? So now it's going to be more important than ever you sit down with your clients, much as you would a seller, and actually write look at the comparables with them. So it's kind of interesting. Do we get that?
Yes.
Has anybody else experienced that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interest rates are going up.
Yeah, so most of us, right? Rentals are coming back to me. So many of you know I own California Leasing, property management company. We're the biggest property management company out here. We control 50% of the rental market, over 600 properties, something like that. Here's what I know. Over the last several months, the sellers, which is normal for the last couple of years, want to take advantage of their equity. And they've been saying, Mike, we've really appreciated your service. It's time to say goodbye. We're going to go ahead and sell the house. And a lot of the times, the agents like you guys refer to us, so we give them back to them. And then the last 30, 60, 90 days, they're coming back to me. They're saying, look, we tried to get so-and-so for the price. We couldn't get it. The neighbors are reducing their prices. It's time for us to put it back in your portfolio. Wow, if that's not a good indicator, I don't know what is. Because the sellers have legitimately just kind of given up and said, look, all right, I don't want to give my house away. And that's probably one of the indicators I should have put in here. When you start hearing people saying, I don't want to give it away, you know something's happening. Yes, Sam?
So does that mean companies like Rex are gonna go by the wayside because they don't know exactly what we're doing here?
We'll talk about that in a second. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, 3 to 5 showing script. It's the most powerful script I've ever used in my life, in my career. I use it up market, stable market, down market. It goes something like this. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we work together as a team. Here's something we know that's relevant in today's market. You need 3 to 5 showings a week, period. If we get 3 to 5 showings a week and we don't get any offers, it's overpriced. If we don't get 3 to 5 showings a week, it's overpriced, right? So this is where you have to be very careful with your marketing data and statistics. You got to make darn sure that you have all your ammunition. You have to make sure, and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm doing my job. Here's this printout, the Zillow, the Realtor.com, whatever you have as ammunition, you better be able to show them numbers, because they're going to say, whose fault is it? It's always Mike's fault when the house doesn't sell. Is that true or not? It's very true, because I have to be in control of my client and explain to them the benefits of not following the market down. We have to be upfront and honest with them and have enough nerve to have that talk with them. And you guys all have access to David Knox in this room. So we pay a lot of money for that for you. He's got some very, very good downward market scripts. And one of the things that saved my booty in the very first recession I went through after the earthquake in 1994 was the Pricing Your Home to Sell video. So what does he do? He breaks down a 30-minute video that talks about how to price your home in a declining market. So he changes the videos as time goes by and releases them or re-records them, I would say, based on the market. I bet you anything right now he's working on the new video, which are great, because all you have to do, and you guys, if you go to the website, teambjorkman.com, click on consumer videos, Pricing Your Home to Sell video is there. I bet you in the next couple of weeks it'll change to one in possibly a stable or declining market. Right now he's talking about an appreciating market. So I would stay on top of those scripts. I'm going to try, don't hold me to this, I have a bunch of CDs, DVDs back in the day when we used to use those. I'm going to try to rip one and put it on the YouTube channel so you can see what that looked like back in the day, and maybe we could see that before he actually releases his. Do you guys need me to say that script again? We good? You got 3 to 5. Always say that, and that'll get you through the hard times. Length of contracts. I've been on 15, 20 listing appointments the last several weeks, and they say, how long do I have to sign up with you? Now, I have not heard that in 5 years. This is where, and this is how the easy exit listing agreement was invented. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it could take up to 3 to 6 months. That's a normal market. One of the benefits of listing with Team Bjorkman is we do let you out if for any reason you're not happy. I put right in our agreement, seller may cancel this agreement at any time with 24 hours written notice. It's never happened before unless the job relocation didn't go through or the people that were getting a divorce fell in love again. You understand, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? But the nice thing to know is basically we have a day-to-day agreement. I give you a handshake, and that's gold. So if you ever feel uncomfortable with our listing process, you may get out of the agreement. Doesn't that make you feel more comfortable? Because most agents in this area, in this market, they will trap you for 6 months to a year. How would that make you feel? Now do you feel comfortable and confident going ahead with the paperwork today? So that's a good thing to say, because now, like, they're like, cool, we're day to day, but that's what I've been hearing over and over, and I'm like, wow, like, where do these, like, there must be a school for sellers, right? And they all go to it when we're not looking. Here's all the scripts you need to screw with your realtor. And that's just the way it is, and it's crazy to me. But that's a big deal. So I just gave you guys a little nugget that'll get you through a recession, no problem. Not that we're going into recession. I'm not like blockbusting us or whatever. Folks finally care about marketing, right? Now I spend a shit ton of money on marketing, right? 10, 20, 30 grand a month sometimes. And the sellers in the last several years have not appreciated it. Like, we do things that other agents can't or won't, right? That's our motto here. We do all kinds of stuff to actually be aggressively, actively finding buyers, not just lollygagging, putting a sign and just putting in the MLS. So the last several listing appointments, the homeowners have actually said, yeah, I want to see what you're going to do to sell my home. You guys are sitting pretty. You have one of the very best listing presentations in the industry, just sitting there waiting for you to take advantage of it at any time. You add a few customizable things for your market. Maybe you do Google AdWords, maybe you do this, that, or the other, maybe you do mega open houses. Customize that to you, and now you'll always have a powerful listing presentation, because if you don't have one and all you want to do is beat them up on price, they're going to throw you out. They're going to be willing to pay a higher commission right now, but you have to be willing to show them what you're going to do to deserve it. Make sense? Okay. We don't need to spend too much time on that. All right, discount brokers. We're talking about Rex, right, Sam?
Yes.
So they're fighting harder than ever for our business. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Rex has been killing it, right? Would you agree they're doing a shock and awe marketing adventure right now in our town?
Yeah.
I've counted 12, 13 billboards. And just so you guys know, those are $3 to $5 grand a month they're spending on just that. How many of you opened your social media and you feel like you work for Rex? Like, they are beating us, retargeting us. They are doing things that other companies can't and won't themselves. They're using dynamic retargeting. They're doing stuff that's mind-blowing. There has not been one listing appointment that I've gone to in the last several weeks where somebody hasn't questioned it. Right? Now, we did that buyer conversion class not too long ago, which really should not be called that. It should be called discount brokerages. We're going to be talking a lot about that on our podcast, and there's a lot of ways to compete with that. But the biggest, the most powerful one right now is, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I can appreciate Rex as a pretty good marketing platform. And I'm the first to say, if I can market myself, I can market houses. They're doing really good at marketing themselves, but here's what they're trying to take advantage of is an up market. In today's market, would you consider it up, or would you say there's more price reductions right now? More price reductions, right? So this is the time where we all have to collaborate as realtors and really work hard together and find each other buyers for our listings. And we're going till midnight some nights trying to find buyers for our listings. Here's what Rex is telling you to do. Avoid the MLS. So if we know a good portion, up to 80-90% of all representation has gone through the MLS, does it make sense for you to list with a company that doesn't offer the MLS? No. You should do the right thing. Pay your listing agent a full commission and hope to God that a good buyer's agent sees my marketing and brings a buyer to your home. Now that might have worked 6 months, a year ago, or at least something you could have played with, but in today's market that would be deadly. If you're trying to save just 1 or 2% and the market goes down 3 to 5% in the next 30, 60 days, then you know they're gonna have you in a contract. Wouldn't that be terrible to know you lost 10% trying to save a few percent? Makes no sense, right? Can you guys say that to your sellers?
Yes.
It's very powerful, and they'll understand that if they're savvy. And there's a lot of other scripts that we can work on in the near future, but that's the biggest one that I've been using to combat Rex right now, because the no MLS thing is asinine.
Is Rex concentrated in various areas?
So what they do is they analyze, and they spend a lot of money doing it, and they've gone throughout the country going, okay, this is the most lucrative market for us, shock and awe, next, and then they just prepare for the next city that they try to come and take over. They've been doing this to Phoenix as long as I can remember. Those poor Phoenix agents got crushed a couple of years ago. And I'm like, well, thank God they're not in my town, right? So, you know, we're so lucky we got bricks and you know, Rex and all those right in the same damn quarter. You know, it's like, it's crazy.
What I'm asking, Mike, is that, for example, we did a deal with Rex, and our buyers paid us a commission. So, Mike, and that was in Brentwood. So my question is are they concentrated in areas where buyers can basically afford
Yeah, they're
2% or
the most
1%?
active real estate platforms and areas, and that's where they're going to concentrate. And of course, would you agree, Southern California always is and always will be a mecca for good-sized sales? Yeah. You know, I've been in this business, I keep saying 27 years, but I'm thinking like 29 now. And the reality is I've only seen a buyer pay a commission maybe 2 or 3 times. You know, it's kind of hard to say, hey, I know you're putting 20% down. I know you're going to pay 3% in closing costs, but by the way, you're going to pay me another 3%.
Yeah, no.
And they're like,
Not
huh?
happening.
Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, and I have scripts and dialogue for that too, but the reality is it's not real fun, not real easy, and it leaves an icky, sticky feeling in everybody's stomach and mouth. It's just a terrible way to do business. And as a matter of fact, it's not a terrible way to do business. I used to do it a lot, but the thing is it's not traditional. It's not something that people are comfortable with. So you start mixing up all these new technologies, all these new shifting markets, and now they're paying you. It's like, it just feels weird. So I try to avoid that at all costs. Sellers are looking at comparables, right? Before, a seller would go on Zillow, pump it up 20%, and that's your list price, right? And that's kind of how it was going. And you're like, hey, what the hell do I know? I'm surprised every day at what these prices are going for. Hey, let's try it. Next day, you have 3 offers. You're like, I'm the man. You flex your muscles. You jump in your Lambo and jam down the street, right? But today, the homeowners are actually pretty savvy. They're like, let's look at the comps. And then the next day, let's look at the comps again. So I have my sellers set up on the MLS updates, and they're actually replying back. Holy crap, did you see that? Yes, I saw that. That's why we're supposed to be on the market right now, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So when you go to their home, they're actually wanting to look at comps. When they're already on the market, they're looking at comps every single day. So the funny thing is, remember that week I told you about I was at the beach with my best friend? Well, in that 7-day period, there was like 7 price reductions on homes that made his very inferior, right? 600 square feet bigger, pools, better views, better streets, cul-de-sacs. While we're sitting there on the beach getting a tan, we lost, 20, 30 grand on his house. So if you're at home not doing that, you're probably looking at comparables. So your homeowners, every day that goes by, they're not looking at the comps. So you need to be on top of your game, and you need to make darn sure that you're in the forefront of that, bringing these listings to them, not you. Because if they call you and say, hey, something popped up on Rex's website today, and you don't know about it, you're doomed, right? I'll tell you right now, I'm probably talking to, without exaggerating, 20 to 25 homeowners that are currently on the market with other agents. Right? I've always been an expired agent. I've been a master at expireds and for sale by owners, and that reputation still exists. They see my marketing. They're calling me going, Mike, my agent's not doing anything to get my home sold. The contract's up here. How do I get out of my contract? It's happening every day. So if you guys don't think it's real, it's very real. And the good part is, that's how we make a lot of money by, it's fun when people call you. Not only that, when Vulcan 7 sends me a list every day of all the people that really want to sell but they can't get their home sold because their agent's not doing their job, that's fun too. It's like people raising their hands, hi, I want to sell. It's like driving through a neighborhood and people pulling you over. Hey, come here. You imagine that? That's what this market's going to be like. All right, more price reductions and pendings. Right now, that's something that's undeniable. You can just pull up the last 2 weeks, and you will see more price reductions in the last 7 days, actually, than we have in the last 90 days. Now, that's a number that's not only undeniable, but scary. Like, wow. So the other day, we were in Saugus putting a home on the market, and I'm learning with the homeowner because I was so busy on my first day back from Orange County, and I look at the comps, and I'm like, Mr. So this is how, and I'm looking, I'm like, holy moly, like, there's 20 actives, 2 pendings, 2 under contract, and then the rest are sold. And I've never seen that in 5 years. It's always been 2 active, 20 pending, right? So that is completely flipped. So again, watching your statistics and watching your numbers, yeah.
I want to chime in too. Last week, Neil asked me to remove appraisal on an offer that I wrote.
Mhm.
But that told me that he felt that even the market was shifting and probably he couldn't get this property up to
Yeah.
appraise.
That's going to be the same in a going up market, right? Or a going down market. You're going to see that a lot. I don't know who invented that or where or why, but it's kind of silly. Most of the buyers here in Southern California, they can't afford to buy it if appraisal isn't good, right?
Exactly.
So, but also the frenzy that buyers get in is crazy. When the market's going down and you're showing them, and I'm not kidding, 12 to 20 homes in a weekend, and then they're like, that's cool, and this is what they'll say, let's see how they price next weekend. You're like, are you effing kidding me? I showed you 20 homes, I broke a heel, your kid puked in my car, and now you want to do this next week? Because here's the reality. Next week, those homes are down, and they think you're an idiot if you try to force them to write an offer. But what's even worse, there's 20 more homes on the market. And you're just like, you guys are kidding me. It's like, it's brutal, you guys.
Great sense of urgency.
And it's kind of neat for, the last 2 years we started talking about this, and then Trump saved our day, right? Twice, 2 years in a row. So now it kind of feels good to talk about it when we have numbers to back all this up. Because I felt it coming, and then woo, we got saved. I felt it coming, and woo, we got saved. And now it's like, here we go. I finally get to talk about it. Yeah. And it's kind of fun as the broker to look around and say, remember all you guys, they won't do a damn thing of what I say. You're going to start right now. All right. Agents begging for training. This is the fun one because you guys know my passion. Training you fools, right? I want you to never feel the pain I felt. And I always want you to have a pipeline and a bank account with 6 to 7 zeros on it. I love making people like you rich. So now all you guys are coming to me. We need this class, we need that class, we need this class, what about this, what about that? I'm like, finally, they need me again. It's like such a good feeling. It sucks, when the agents don't need you, they're just like, where's my check, hurry up with that. I'm like, oh. Because I've had to work, right, through a couple different recessions now, and it's been painful, brutally painful, so it's kind of fun for me to say, oh, good, I'm daddy's loved again. It's kind of like when you come home from work and your dog's just starving. You're like, you need me now. All right, price reductions we talked about. Do we need to cover price reductions too much?
No, you pretty much covered.
No. All I really want to say about price reductions, we'll go back that we did a few minutes ago. Price reductions is everything in this world, right? Pricing it up front, nipping it in the butt, is what you really should focus on. But until your skill set has evolved to that, you're going to want to get really good at price reductions. And that David Knox training and the Mike Ferry training, all that training, you're going to need it, you're going to want it, and you're going to want to use it and abuse it because there's a lot of things that you need to say and graphs that you need to show and visuals that they need to see to understand. Like when the market's declining, you will put your sellers in your car sometimes more than your buyers to go show them homes. That's a reality too. Has you guys ever shown a seller homes before?
Yeah.
A couple of us? Okay, so you're gonna have to get back used to that. And it's kind of weird because they're gonna walk into the house, hey John, their neighbor, and they're like just pissed. And now there's a price reduction war, and you're like, oh my God. So that's reality. So we'll talk about, what else we have to talk about? So the media frenzy is the fun part, right? This is that article I posted yesterday. I just threw it up there. But look at CNBC, Southern California home sales crash, a warning sign to the nation. Is that scary?
That is.
They use the word crash,
Yes.
warning, and nation.
Yes.
Holy shit, like who has the balls to put that on a freaking national ad? Like, are you kidding me? And then in Southern California, homes, a warning sign to the nation, and then they right away put all this stuff up. So, I don't know, I posted that and it got, 10, 15 shares. Like, the only time I get 10 that kind of shares. Do you guys see how we're leveraging those dogs too? I love dogs, don't get me wrong, but boy, they're gonna make me a lot of money. All right, so any questions about this before we move on? We're comfortable right now? Okay, yeah.
Forbes came out with some news about informing the millennials that they needed to have 20% down to buy a house.
Sure.
So they have responsibility to bring the honest information. So it's not 20% down. You don't need 20% down to buy a house.
Never.
Why are they trying to scare people?
I've never seen that.
Why are they
I don't
trying to
know,
scare
man.
people?
Different writers, they let their opinion, they work off of, the media frenzy, right? This particular article I just showed you, there's some stuff in there I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. But the worse the market gets, the lower the down payments go, right? That's just it. We have, but they're government programs, thank God that we have a decent government that cares enough about home ownership in here. But I did want to get to this today. I was fortunate enough last week to meet Guillermo, who's sitting here. The guy is an absolute wizard. And when I say wizard, I heard him speak for maybe an hour and a half in awe. My phone was upside down, off, and I just listened to everything he had to say. somehow God brought us together to where we got to chit chat a little bit, and he actually agreed to come out here today. He lives over an hour away, extremely busy guy. He has a credit cleanup company, a mortgage company. He's a sales broker. He does an extremely amazing thing with marketing for real estate agents. Probably one of the most well-rounded, diversified, nicest guys and ballers that I've met in a long time. So how I was able to get him up here, I don't know. But Guillermo, would you like to speak for just a few minutes?
Sure.
Tell your story and what you do. And what I really am looking forward to hearing is what you think these agents have coming, because he's been in the business 20 years, a long time. And his awesome daughter, Samantha. Sam, bringing him up. You want a podium here?
Yeah.
There you go, buddy. So give him a nice home smart welcome, please.
So thank you, Mike. First of all, I want you guys to know that, I mean, just listening to Mike right now, that kind of training, if I was a new agent, I'd be really scared, right? I mean, because the market is shifting, but what Mike is doing is he's educating you, and he's going in front and telling you what you need to know. And a lot of brokers aren't going to do that. They're gonna try to sugarcoat it because they'd be afraid of agents getting out of the business, right? They're going to be afraid of people who are already struggling, telling them, oh, well, maybe I should go get that regular job. But if you've got a broker who's willing and believes enough in his skills and what he wants to do for you guys to tell you the truth, then that's somebody you need to stick around with. You know, like Mike said, we met briefly over the weekend. We got to hang out a little bit. And to tell you a little about me, like Mike said, I'm licensed as a mortgage, insurance, and real estate broker. I also own a credit repair and consulting company, and I do business consulting we do the actual, instead of like, you know, there's different kind of coachings that we have in real estate. You've got people that will just give you a checklist and tell you to go do it. So my team, what we do is we implement it. We work with you, and we actually do the work. So we kind of become a part of your team, from everything from strategies to messaging to processes to systems, all that stuff. So if you've got a coach that's telling you go do this, we're the ones that come in and help you implement where your one coaches. So we kind of work hand in hand with somebody else or on our own. It just depends. But to tell you a little bit about me, like I said, I was born with congenital glaucoma. I was able to see till I was about 16. I lost my sight then. And, you know, thankfully to my mom, she's the one that pushed me to she never expected less of me, so that's where my drive comes and ability to do what I do. I'm an investor as well. We flip houses. The signs that we see that we think that agents are dealing with is on the investing side. You've got wholesalers who, you know, put deals under contract. You're starting to see a lot of those spreads get really thin, and then you're starting to see a lot of those wholesale deals, just like regular deals. You're getting emails, we're getting emails, price reduced, price reduced. So even the discounted is being discounted. Mm-hmm. So if that tells you that if somebody got a seller to agree to sell their house for 80 grand under market, they're having to go back and tell them, no, you know what, you need to sell it for 120 grand under market. So that's a huge indicator. You've got, you know, it used to be where we got a deal sent over to us, and within 45 minutes it was locked up. Somebody had already sent over proof of funds and was promising to send over the EMD. So that's a huge thing that you know is a big like, man, it's really happening, right? The other thing is I'm talking to other investors who are, you know, doing a lot more business than we do, and they're dumping inventory right now. Everybody's trying to get out of everything. And the reason they're doing it is they're trying to stack their cash so when the prices drop, they can go out and, you know, do it all over again. One of the things that, like you guys were talking about, you know, the Forbes thing with the 20% down, you know, education, you know, fake news, whatever you want to call it, that's out there, or misinformation. You guys really got to get up on that in regards to educating clients of, you know, FHA, all these other programs that you can do with less down payment. And really, the one thing that I was told, because I'm also licensed in Arizona as a broker, the one thing that I was told in one of those classes when I was taking those classes was the biggest mistake I made, the instructor was saying the biggest mistake I made was not buying a multifamily as my first property. Mm-hmm. So one of the scripts that we use all the time is to tell, look, you're already renting an apartment. why not get something that's actually going to be paying for itself? And eventually you can move out, and then you can buy something what you really want. Nobody ever gets their dream home, but you're not losing any quality of life. You're actually gaining it. And then I get the argument, well, I don't want to be a landlord. Great, hire a property management company, and when the tenants are out there complaining about the landlord, you complain too. When I say, when out there and say that, oh, that landlord's a blank, 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 then you just chime in, yeah, he is a blank, blank, but he isn't. You don't have to tell anybody that you're the landlord. So you find solutions for people, and you just make it happen. But I guess the best thing I can tell you guys, and to keep it brief, is this market is going to make the people that make it through and stick through it very wealthy. You make a lot of money when the market downturns because the competition is none. And if you actually turn this into, you do this as a professional, like Mike said, look at your stats, know your numbers, and really present yourself as a professional, you're not going to be battling for, the 1% discount brokers. They can't compare. Their presentations are never going to get to the point where somebody who actually does this as a business gets. It can't happen that way. It won't, because most of those people are taking those, if they're on salary or whatever it may be, it's volume, right? They're only going to be able to do is volume. So with volume, they're not going to really be focused on really getting in the weeds about the numbers and how to do that. The other thing that to give you hope is, my sister sold her house in Arizona. This was when I was in the midst of getting my license. We had just got licensed, so we hadn't set everything up. She sold it through OfferPad, which is one of those where they buy the house and whatever. So I told her, I said, you know what, instead of most agents would got upset, oh, she sold me, I was like, no, I'm just going to interview you. I'm going to use you as a case study for the coaching and consulting that I do. So they ended up paying a 7% commission, okay? But they were happy to pay it. And the reason that they were happy to pay it is because they had bought the house, they never did anything to it. They have 4 kids, they didn't want showings, they didn't want it to clean up after, to do showings, they didn't want open houses. OfferPad sent 1 home inspector. They only had to talk to the person once. They accidentally broke a window while they were there, so a latch or something. But they sent somebody out to repair it immediately. And my brother-in-law, who's a mail carrier and just like real A personality, like real stickler about things, he goes, the thing that we like, he's like, it was a service. It was a service that the customer service beat us out. And they knew, like I broke it down for them, because they got they got a moving company to come. They didn't pack them, but they gave them, okay, these are how many boxes you get. This is, when we'll pick it up. So they got a moving company to come pick up the boxes and move them to the new property. They got to pick their closing date. These are all things that you can do as an agent if you coordinate with other relationships and things like that. Obviously, picking a closing date is going to be something that you're going to have to work with a flexible buyer, or if you're working with an investor. But you got to think out of the box. You got to start providing services that all these other people aren't going to think of. Maybe you can get like a Molly maid service to come in prior to open houses, and you put it in your listing agreement that if they cancel, they have to refund you for this, or whatever it may be. Lawn care, whatever it takes. You're gonna have to start thinking out of the box, and don't run and like just if you see the ads for the discount brokers, whatever it be, don't just like cringe and move away from it. Click on it, go through the process. In marketing they call it funnel hacking, where you actually go through somebody's sales process so you can learn what they're doing, so to see what you can do with it. That's what you need to do, is you need to go through their processes and find out all their holes, what they're missing, so that you can fill them, so that you can answer the questions and tell them and point out things that they may not notice when that 1% agent isn't even bringing up, because obviously they're not going to tell you their weaknesses. And those are the things that you want to work on. And that's pretty much what I had to say in regards to the marketing stuff. You really have to, like the video, video content is huge. Like right now when I was sitting there, Mike was talking about, that sellers probably go to a script class. That could be a comedy video that you could do, Mike. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
Like, welcome to Screw With Your Agent 101, right? and how can we mess with them about pricing? And you can do stuff like that. And those are don't take yourself too serious when it comes to social media, because people want to know that you're human, right? The more polished professional you come off, And the more, you know, like, yeah, it's good and it's great, but still people want to connect with you, you know. And I mean, the other signs that the market's changing is, I mean, Facebook just lost $150 billion yesterday, right? Our next shift is not going to have anything to do with subprime loans. You know, the government just printed an extra $12 billion to subsidize farmers because of the tariff war, right? So there's all kinds of other signs that are going to do all that are going to affect our market. So, you know, remember that, yeah, we do real estate, everything, real estate, mortgage, and whatever, and that's what your life is. But remember to look at other things, because, you know, there's other things. We become collateral damage, not necessarily the leading cause of the crash. But that's pretty much what I got to say.
Guillermo, can you answer a couple questions? David in the back.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you. That was a great presentation. Can you share any knowledge with us about the markets in Arizona, Phoenix, maybe?
So the markets in Arizona right now you've got little pockets that are still like multiple offers, but a lot of them are just doing what ours are doing, where it's, you know, where it's getting stagnant. And they have, I know for Open Door, which is one of the companies that buys properties, they just sent out an email that they're not going to be buying properties over 300,000. So even they're shifting their strategy. So I think that's a huge. That doesn't mean that they're going anywhere. That just means that they're seeing a shift and they're starting to trim their spending budget.
Go ahead.
It's thank you very much for being here. Great information. We appreciate it, and thank you, Mike. It's just an off-the-wall question. Do you happen to know anything about Florida? I see that I'm late to the party and thinking of selling that investment property I have out there.
Yeah. So Florida, about a year ago, because I vacationed there a couple of times. I go there for a lot of conferences and stuff like that, and that's one. So my grand picture is I want to be licensed in California, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida, because I know that those are always the markets when shifts happen where the biggest opportunities happen. You know, Florida, about a year ago, I started hearing from people that I know out there that, you know, construction was being stopped and things like that. So they're slowing down. I mean, to answer your question in regards to that, so I listed 2 properties last night from a friend of mine whose husband is a commercial appraiser, and they see it and they said, we're selling everything. They're literally selling every property they own right now. So to me, it's like, okay, you know, you've got people that are, and you know, he's been doing commercial appraisals forever, and she's been an investor forever, and she's made millions off of her stuff, and they're just like, they don't care. They're like, we're gonna go rent. We're just gonna go cash out. They'll probably end up with like $1 million change, you know, liquid after they sell everything, but they're like, we're gonna be gone. And Florida's the same way. You know, right now, if you're trying to get out, if you're thinking about getting out, it's either get out now or wait, you know, 10, 12 years to get out later. You know, it's one of those things. And then I guess one of the things I forgot to mention, the other sign that I'm seeing that's going to affect the market is Airbnb. All the cities that are starting to crack down on it. You don't know how many courses. Well, I'm sure you do, because you get marketed to them. And you know, I don't know, Mike, what's your thoughts on it? But you know, you got all these people teaching people to buy properties using Airbnb to pay for them on a monthly basis. Where you got all these cities now that are like, I was just watching an agent who did a Facebook Live in San Diego. I can't remember exactly what part. There was a meeting about how they're going to limit people to only now having to get a permit to be a short-term rental, and they're only going to give you like 2 permits if you're married, 1 if you're single. You know, so that's going to affect, and those properties are either going to have to get sold or they're going to go in default, because people are literally buying them. It's just like anything else. I mean, it's like the gold rush. I mean, you know, everybody gets the fever and then they start buying, overextending themselves, and we all know what happens, right?
Yes.
Rika?
I used to do vacation rentals.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Totally different, Rika. Sorry. Didn't know we had 2.
I didn't see her. I used to do vacation rentals years ago in Sedona, Arizona, and I had a bed and breakfast, and I saw the market. I mean, I couldn't even go to the gym for an hour without my phone blowing up with people wanting to rent my properties. And it went from that to like 2-week period, only 1 call. You know, so as the market shifts, you know, like Airbnb, I used to rent through Cyber Rentals and VRBO before Airbnb was ever heard of. And when the market starts to shift and people start to sell those properties, people don't travel as much because they don't have funds. So the vacation industry gets affected very, very much with that. And you see a lot of people either losing their properties or having to sell them, or
Yeah.
sell them really cheap.
Because that's a luxury. That's not something.
It is.
You
It's
know,
luxury.
you got to pay your rent. You got to pay your mortgage. You got to put food on the table. You don't have to go on vacation.
Exactly.
All right, Rika.
So first I'm going to share my Airbnb story, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So my Airbnb story was I went all the way up to San Francisco for this amazing deal that I saw, and all I could see, because it was a single family, but it had 2 units with separate entrances, and all I could see was Airbnb, and what a great price. And of course the realtors up there are very snooty. They sit down, they don't even look up from their phone when you ask them a question. And no, this will go at least 300,000 or 400,000 above list price. So, you know, if you're serious, give me an offer. Come back, do my number crunching. Well, on Airbnb, this should still make sense, right? Then I look into the Airbnb rules. They have so many crackdowns right now, especially in the city of San Francisco. It has to be a primary residence. You can't do more than 90 days, blah, 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 but you have to get pre-approved. It goes on and on and on. I'm like, you know what? He'll be lucky if he gets a full price offer on this at this point. Sure enough, they gave us 2 weeks before they accept. And I decided not to offer, not to write. Guess what? So did a lot of people. Agents calling me now going, did you still want to write an offer? I'm like, dude, what happened to your 400,000 above ask? So yeah, it's shifting even in San Francisco. So when you see it happening up there, it's affecting all of us. It's happening, it's coming. Of course now I'm like, I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until it happens and I'll pick it up.
So imagine
I
how many
don't-
buyers are saying the same
Yes,
thing.
and buyers are saying the same thing, including the open house that I'm talking to you about, Mike, and that I have right now. So my question for you, please, is when you say investors, because investors, I work with small investors and I'm an investor, they're gonna get rid of their inventory before the prices tank, and then they're gonna buy them up when they do. What about the tax implications? Or do they not care that it's not a 1031 exchange? And how do investors, because if I have investors that can take advantage of that without hurting them on a tax basis, of course, that'll be my next call.
A lot of them are, if they got single families, they're moving it in, they're 1031ing it into multifamilies.
Okay.
But then even that, so at least, so a couple things. In the LA area, you've got a lot of, everybody's trying to build ancillary units on
Yes.
single families, or they're doing multifamilies. Those multifamilies are going at stupid prices, where they just don't make sense, but people would rather get out of the single families and avoid the taxes and pay that as long as it's going to cash flow, even though it's a lower cap or whatever. So that's what the bigger investors, when I'm saying that they're cashing out, I'm talking about like people that are holding 100, 150 properties. You know what I mean?
Okay, so not the small investors.
Yeah, the small investors really have, like when you guys are representing the small investors, even no matter how educated they are, just remind them, their profit is made when they buy it, not when they sell it. And that's something, because they're looking at the same old appreciating market models, and the models that the stuff that I see on the investment side is crazy. Like, I've seen people, because I'm in all kinds of groups for the investment and cash buyers and all this other stuff, and you got people like wholesalers saying, oh, they're asking me for a proof of funds, where can I get one? And people are saying, oh, just Google proof of funds. The stuff that's out there is just ridiculous. So it's all gonna come back and it's all gonna bite everybody in the butt. You know what I mean? But just remember, when people, for your buyers, another thing is, what I always tell buyers when they say, when's the right time to buy? Well, the right time to buy is when you can afford it, right? If you're paying rent right now, if you can find something that you can afford, and you're looking to hold on to it, and it's a home for your family, then there's always the right time to buy, as long as you can buy it. Yeah. If you're trying to flip, then there's a different time for that. You can still flip, but you got to use different numbers.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, a question for you about what do you see for rentals back in Southern California? If prices come down too much, the rents, aren't they going to provide some type of floor for the home prices? Because if your rent payment is $3,000 a month, and your home dips to where you can buy it for $3,000 a month, wouldn't that be a floor for home prices?
So it kind of depends on the fact of, obviously, where you're going to rent, where the rental is. But at the end of the day, the fact that we don't have, just like we don't have inventory to sell, that was a problem. We have a lot less inventory for people to rent, and that can afford. That some people, it's easier for them to qualify for a mortgage than it is with some property management companies to qualify as a rental. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like I remember back in the day, I was looking, because I've bought and sold, and when I got divorced, I sold my place. And I was looking for a rental, and they're like, oh yeah, we need to see, 3 times income. Great. Well, I'm self-employed, so here's my bank statements. Well, no, it has to be on a pay stub. I'm like, I'm self-employed. I can, there's the income, and it's stuff that they just, like, they have these little rules that, and it makes it harder for people. So to answer your question, I don't think that rents are going to be some kind of safety net for the home price, because they weren't last time. You know what I mean? When I sold in 2005, I bought my house in 2004. I just remodeled it. Everything was nice. And in 2005, mid-2005, the guy who taught me the business, who had been doing it since the 80s, said, sell your house. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just put a bunch of money into it. I bought it for $300. It's now worth like $495. I'm looking. He's like, the market's gonna tank. I'm here crazy. He's like, believe me or not. And I'm always one to take advice, so I sold it. Three or 4 years later, it had gone through a couple people. The bank was selling it for $160,000. But rents hadn't dropped that dramatic. See, like if you go back and look at the data, and don't hold me to it, but I'm sure the drop in home prices doesn't equivalent to the same drop in rent prices.
So did you buy your house back?
No, I didn't buy my house back.
Hey, Guillermo, will you go over, maybe we don't have too much time, but maybe one of your top 1 or 2 funnels for real estate agents right now?
So one of the things that one of the funnels that we did that we're now putting together as a long-term strategy was military, serving the military, right? We did a small test in Memorial Day where we spent $180. We only asked for email and name. And then we sent them an email that had like, okay, what best describes you, A, B, C, or D? Like, do you have credit issues? Are you looking to buy? Whatever it was. And we had 34 people opt in. Like I said, we only spent $180, so it was a small test. We had 34 people opt in. One guy replied, picked the one choice that was closest to him, told us exactly what his income was, where he stood, and what his situation was. I mean, everything that you could want from a buyer was on that email. Okay?
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff that I work on. Like I've done Boomtown, I've done Commissions Inc., I've done all of them, and I hate chasing internet lead down. And I'm not saying that I can't convert. I converted a $2.5 million buyer off of Boomtown lead. So it's not that I can't do it, I just rather not do it. So I'd rather dig deep into the data and do stuff like that, and really your copy is going to you have to make your copy on your ads to either qualify or disqualify somebody automatically. Let them do the work, right?
Was this a Facebook ad or an email?
It was Facebook ads.
Okay.
It started as a Facebook ad. It was a video. So I live down in San Pedro, and we have it's Iowa, the USS Iowa down there. So we did 2 videos. Samantha, because she's licensed as well. I got her license at 18. I told her if I die, you got to take over everything. So she did a video, and I did a video. We're both individually standing in front of the Iowa, talking about how we have this Veterans Day, Memorial Day special. We'll help you with your credit, or pay for your appraisal, or give you a closing cost credit, depending on your situation, or maybe you qualify for all 3, give us a call. Go ahead and opt in. And that's what we ran on Facebook. We spent $25 a day for like 6 or 10 days, I can't remember, because I wanted to do something that was different. And what I learned from that process was kind of mind-blowing. I learned that we have all these homes for heroes, we have all these military certifications, right? Yet the domain servingourmilitary.com was still available. So of course I bought it. So now what we're doing is we're putting a nationwide program together where I have one of the agents that I work with who's in Colorado that I coach, and she wants to do the military stuff. We pulled all the bases, and we're going to target by zip code all the bases and around there, nationwide. And we're going to offer the same kind of thing, but we're working on the email drip campaign. So I would say that your best thing is giving value and lead magnets. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. Don't, like, in Arizona, you can pull the homes into 250,000, right? We all know there's nothing like that around here, right? We all know you have to start talking to their pain points. You have to start talking to, like, needing more space, and again, it depends. Like when we were at the mastermind, Roland who was speaking, the gentleman who was speaking, he went up there and he's like killer with stats. He pulled a NAR study for investors, and he was talking about investment properties, and I can't remember if it was 82% said that they would never rent their home out as an investor, because they're their second homes, and then 42% said that it was their their getaway, their retreat. So he was talking like he was having us work through how would you come up with a buyer strategy. So the first thing that I thought, well, how about a seller strategy? Go and start marketing to areas that people have second homes that are being inundated with Airbnbs, and use some headline along the lines, has your retreat become a spring break gone bad?
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
So you're speaking to somebody's pain point.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. Stop doing, and please don't tell me that any of you guys go into Facebook groups and go, does anybody have a great ad that I can copy and paste? Because that's the worst. I've heard of people saying that they saw somebody running an ad on the East Coast with homes that didn't even look like they were from the East Coast. Like really, the consumer's smart. They're really digging in and seeing the details. You know what I mean? And look at off-market properties. I always tell everybody, instead of hating these wholesalers, start making friends with them, because they're out there door knocking more than you guys are. Because you think you're out there door knocking for a commission, to them they're thinking they're going to make $100,000. So their motivation is just a little bit higher because they think they're going to get paid more than you. So there's a lot of those properties that they're not going to be able to sell wholesale. But guess what? They're going to find sellers who are raising their hand saying, yeah, I do want to sell, I just don't want to sell at your price. So really, really speak to people's pain. I guess. So the funnels that I would say that would work for you, for the seller side, like I said, that vacation or second home one, and then for buyers, you want to talk about get with a good lender like you guys have. We noticed you got Skyline. I had a buddy who worked at Skyline, my corporate up there. Good, all kinds of loan products. Learn your loan products from your lender, partner with them, find out how affordable they can be, and then start targeting the areas that rent for as much as the mortgages. And start mailing to pull from title the non-owner and mail directly to the renter. One of the farming things that always drives me batty with people do regular farming is they send the same postcard to everybody. Well, if you're farming, you should be sending 2 postcards to a non-owner. You should be sending one directly to the tenant, telling them if they want to buy. And I see that you enjoy living in the neighborhood. Would you like to own for the same price, right? And then another postcard directly to where the bill gets sent to the homeowner. Has your investment property become a headache? Are you thinking of selling? Whatever it may be. One of the things that we're going to start putting together, and I came up with it just within the last week, but I haven't figured out how to do the stats just because I haven't had time. But to market for sellers, we're going to go and look for people between 2008 and 2010 who bought, and then we're going to create a chart, and not just your typical graph with a line and percentages. I'm going to go in there and put 50. Then it was worth 180. Then it was 220. So because people relate more to the dollars, and then I'm going to tell them, are you willing to risk this extra 150 grand if the market changes? Nobody's out there doing that I know of. So just speak to their pain points and talk in the language that matters to them, makes sense to them.
Any more questions, guys?
What about your credit program?
So what we do is we help people with credit repair. I started doing that when I first got into business as a mortgage, because back in 2004, because I was told, go get all the deals that nobody else wants and you won't have competition. And that's pretty much what I've always done. Just like with short sales, I went into short sales where everybody else was doing REOs, but with the credit, what we do is it's a 6-month program. We help people, and we'll tell them up front, look, this is what it's going to take. And we sit down, because I'm insurance licensed and we do financial planning. Like if they're not doing the right things, like we're not even going to help them. Like if they're still just not paying their bills, if it's just a bunch of old crap that needs to come off or stuff like that, or issues, then we'll help. But if we see that it's not going to matter, then we're not going to help them. So that's pretty much what we do. We sit down, work with them. We'll fix them back up, and we know what it takes because we're a lender to get them qualified, and then we'll send them back to the agent that sent them to us.
Thank you.
He doesn't do nothing, huh?
Is there a fee?
All right, good enough. it makes us feel like we don't do much during the day, huh? What do you do? Name it. What do you excel at? Name it. I'm not sure how much his services are, but if you can afford them, I would probably jump in on some of that.